We're very pleased to be joined by Senior Policy Analyst at the Asian Studies Center of the Heritage Foundation, Olivia Enos. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Could you help us understand the situation in Xinjiang a little bit? We keep hearing about the Uyghur population and the atrocities occurring there, but what exactly is going on according to your research?
Absolutely. Well, right now there's between 1.8 and 3 million Uyghurs currently held in political re-education camps in Xinjiang, China. And they are put there because the Chinese Communist Party has deemed them a so-called threat. But what the reality is that this is an extension of the Chinese Communist Party's attempt to sinicize or essentially secularize religion, as well as eliminate an entire culture and ethnicity known as and manifested by the Uyghurs. And the new evidence that is coming out, new reporting, undeniably confirms the existence of these camps. Firsthand testimony can speak to the nature of torture, some people dying in prison, and even now we are hearing that some people are being forcibly sterilized. So I put out a report over the past week saying that I believe that genocide and crimes against humanity may be taking place against the Uyghurs.
So when you describe it as sinicized, and we've seen cases of, let's say, moving large numbers of ethnic Han Chinese people into areas like Tibet to I guess, make this more of a culturally suitable area for the Chinese Communist Party. You feel that it goes even a step further when we're talking about genocide in terms of trying to, it seems to imply that there is an attempt to eliminate the population there then.
You're absolutely right. So, I mean, I would say that this is the Chinese Communist Party engaging in sort of a silent killing off of the next generation of Uyghurs. The way that we're seeing this made manifest is primarily through a policy of forced sterilization and forced implantation of IUDs. Senior researcher Adrian Zenz from the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation found that according to Chinese government data, they have the objective of sterilizing approximately 80% of Uyghur women of childbearing age, and Zenz believes that it's closer to 90%. If you have that rate of sterilization of Uyghur women, not to mention the number of spouses that are separated from each other in these political re-education camps, then the big question on everyone's mind should be, what will become of the next generation of Uyghurs? And even after Uyghur children are born, we're seeing Uyghur babies being subject to infanticide just to comply with the Chinese Communist Party's arbitrary birth spacing requirements. And beyond this, we're seeing children placed in so-called kindergartens or preschools that have live-in boarding school-like conditions where they're yet again separated from their families. And these could hardly be considered schools. In fact, they're surrounded by barbed wire and 24 hours of surveillance. These children are being indoctrinated by the Chinese Communist Party.
And do you feel that it is in some ways comparable to the mass killings that occurred during the Chinese Cultural Revolution in the 60s and 70s?
I think we're definitely seeing similarities between what took place during the Cultural Revolution and what is facing Uyghurs today. And I think, during the Cultural Revolution, you saw tens of millions of people who were killed. While we don't have the total number of estimates of Uyghurs that are being killed, we have definitely seen reports here and there of 150 Uyghurs being killed in one camp, high-level academic Uyghurs who have gone missing, never to reappear. And so the death toll is unknown, but I do want to underscore this point. In order for something to be considered genocide, it does not require massive amounts of death. It requires the intent to eliminate a group in whole or in part on the basis of things like their political affiliation, their race or ethnicity, or their religion. And in this case, we see the Chinese Communist Party in their own data manifesting this evidence that they intend to eliminate or at least significantly reduce the next generation of Uyghurs.
So from China's rebuttals to all of this, Western media kind of spreading propaganda, fake news, and kind of almost a relic to all the way back in 2001 after the 9/11 terrorist attacks in the U.S., where all these other countries, through legitimate or perhaps not so legitimate reasons, let's say Russia going after the Chechen rebels and China going after the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, citing terrorism as sort of the key motivating factor to try to clamp down on that. Does that argument still hold sway?
That's right. That's the argument that the Chinese Communist Party is constantly reaching towards. And they tie it back to a few very isolated instances, including a knife attack in Kunming and a minor bombing in the early 2000s. But the vast majority of Uyghurs are peaceful, even, nominal practicing Muslims. And the reality is that the Chinese Communist Party has attempted to mask its overarching political objectives under the guise of terrorism simply because the Uyghurs themselves are Muslim. And I think this is a huge misnomer. But what is at the root is that the Chinese Communist Party sees the Uyghurs as a fundamental threat to two of its core policy interests. That's maintaining its own internal stability and safeguarding its sovereignty. And because the Uyghurs have at times sought to separate from China and form their own independent region, the Chinese Communist Party has determined that they're a terrorist threat. But this could not be further from the truth, especially since, by and large, Uyghurs have engaged in predominantly peaceful protests, and none of it has been motivated by religious violence or anything remotely that would conjure the images of terrorism of the likes of 9/11.
Right. And the international community, we hear widespread condemnation of this, and you might attribute it mostly because of our exposure to Western media. But that international pressure up till now does not seem to really have any effect on Beijing's policies there, right?
Yes, I think, unfortunately, while the international community has been shining a spotlight on the plight of the Uyghurs, I think that the U.S. in particular has stopped short of calling a spade a spade. And I think that's why it's so important for the U.S. to issue an atrocity determination saying whether genocide and crimes against humanity or genocide or crimes against humanity are taking place against the Uyghurs. Because I think this will lead to further follow-on action. For example, my report recommends that the U.S. extend priority to refugee status to ensure that Uyghurs are able to be resettled and seek refugee status here in the United States. I also think that the United States, as well as a coalition of the willing from the international community, should put pressure on the International Olympic Committee to reconsider China's suitability to host the Olympics in 2022. The Chinese Communist Party is definitely vulnerable to its worldwide image of itself. And so I think calling into question its ability to hold a prestigious, and I want to underscore this, a privileged sporting event is not a right. And so I think we should be really putting pressure on the Chinese Communist Party and making it clear that whether it's Uyghurs or Tibetans or Christians or Catholics or Falun Gong or any person of any faith, that we will come to their defense even when the Chinese Communist Party does not.
So on the one hand, the Trump administration, tough stance on things like TikTok and Huawei, perhaps a little bit more lenient with judging by Donald Trump's personal relationship with Xi Jinping. You said they need to call a spade a spade. What more can the Trump administration do to counter these abuses?
Yeah, that's a great question. So definitely issuing that atrocity determination would be a great step forward. I think building upon some of the efforts that the administration has taken, for example, to counter forced labor, we saw the Department of Homeland Security just this past couple of weeks issuing withhold and release orders, ensuring that goods produced with forced labor are not making their way into the U.S. market. And I think we need to see additional individuals like Chen Guangguo, who was recently sanctioned by the U.S. Department of the Treasury, sanctioned for those human rights violations. And as I mentioned before, I think extending refugee status, it looks good. The U.S. has long been that shining city on a hill that provides safe haven for communities in need. We should absolutely come and help the Uyghurs where they need help, especially in their time of need. Those would be my recommendations.
Well, hopefully they do take those recommendations to heart. We're going to have to leave it there. But Olivia Enos, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me on, Henry.